Mitchell Moses, 2029. Is that a bit of a risk for the Eels?
There is an element of risk for sure. Firstly, I'm glad you signed so we can stop talking about it. But he's because it has been ongoing for quite some time. This whole Eels player option debacle. There's so many players there that basically have the club in the fist of their hand, and they can do whatever they want. But Moses signing on to 2029 isn't, well, firstly, from Moses' point of view, it's an enormous show of faith in new coach Jason Riles there. To say that he's the guy that's going to take this club forward and I'm wanting to be part of that for the final years of my career is an enormous call from Moses. But from an Eels point of view, a 5-year deal, he's already north of 30. He spent the second half of last year on the sidelines injured. I'm not saying he's injury prone, but certainly players the wrong side of 30 do start to become far more susceptible to that sort of thing. And when you look at the value he's on, the reported figure is $1.3 million a year. That makes him the highest paid player in the game. There is an enormous amount of risk there for Parramatta. If he goes down with a season-long injury or just multiple little injuries throughout the season, suddenly you're chopping and changing your halfback and you've spent so much of your salary cap on one player. It has the potential to unbalance that squad. Retro, what are your thoughts on that one?
It's a tough one, and I'd be interested to bounce back to you on this. Dylan Brown, of course, is the next chess piece. And the story is that the Knights have come out with 10 million. 10 years, 12 million over 10 years, or something in that figure. Now, there's two schools of thought. One, Mitchell Moses locks in. That gives more motivation for Dylan Brown to lock in. Or two, Mitchell Moses is locked in for a very tall figure. I'm not going to get my money here. I have to look elsewhere. And apparently there's another club in the hunt for him, unnamed as well. So, and if from a Parramatta point of view, if they dip their toe right into those two halves, are they the two that are you're 100% sure on a 10-year plan are going to guarantee you a premiership? And how do you build your squad around them? When you're dealing with people like Cameron Smith and Billy Slater, you can pour your bank into that and be pretty safe. Are they the guys? Or was this a play to just stop Mitch Moses going to the Roosters or whoever because they're getting hungry too? So there's a lot riding in that. I'd be interested to see how all those little pieces fall. If I had to pick between signing Mitch Moses or Dylan Brown, I would pick Mitch Moses. And I don't think that his injuries are the type of injuries that, add on top of each other a little bit like Tommy Turbo's hamstrings. It's a bicep tendon here. It's the other thing there. They're not necessarily related. The recovery time will be more. You're right on that, Scott. But how do you see those contracts playing out across the board?
Yeah, well, I don't. Here's the thing. I think with Moses now signed for $1.3 million and Brown likely to command more than $1 million. First up, I don't think Dylan Brown's $1 million player. Let's just get that on the table. I don't think he's in that elite class of half. He probably could turn into that, but I don't see him in that group of players at this stage of his career. I don't see the Eels spending over, probably $2.5 million a year on their halves. It has the potential to ruin the rest of your squad in that way and the money you can spend. What's the salary cap, 11 million or 12 million roughly? So if you're spending 2 million on your halves, there goes a sixth of it straight away on 2 players. You've got 30 players to sign with that money. So I don't think Dylan Brown will stay at Parramatta now if the reported numbers that are coming from Newcastle and this other mystery club are correct. I agree with you. I'd probably sign Moses ahead of Brown, but either way, there's risk involved. Darren, I'm not sure.
Yeah. I mean, on the Brown one, it's almost a Godfather type deal that you couldn't say no to that length of time and everything that comes with it. As you say, I mean, if you end up getting... You can become injury prone at that stage, even if you haven't been, but it's also worth noting that most of the players who are injury prone, it starts to become soft tissue related. You start doing the old man injury like the calf or the hamstring and that type of thing. A lot of the random injuries, not so much, but yeah, I can understand why they've done it, but yeah, it's not without risk for a player at that stage of their career. I mean, if you you look at someone who has been injury prone, like a Pappenhausen or something like that, and then you balance up, age and those sorts of things with risks. And I guess clubs have to be bold in terms of saying we want to keep the pack away, and sometimes you've got to take a little bit of a risk or sign someone a bit longer or pay them a little bit more. But yeah, I'm always of the cautious, conservative approach to long-term deals like that.
I think there might be one angle that may prove it to be a smart decision in the long run, in that there's 2 extra sets of bank balances about to arrive on the NRL landscape in PNG and possibly Perth. And so 1.3 may turn out to be cheap when all of a sudden, let's say the Hammer is offered 1.1 to go to PNG, or Ben Hunt goes all the way over to Perth, or whatever. Bank balances will start to flow. So 1.3
and the salary cap will
very
move
smart decision
as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Scott, do you want to mention, we did talk about this off air, just with that salary cap movement, that will be factored into Moses' contract almost certainly.
Yeah, almost certainly he's got a ratchet clause in his deal through to 2029, which means the next TV deal will commence prior to Moses' contract ending. You'd imagine salary cap's going to go up with that TV deal, particularly with a 9th game per week being added. And so essentially, ratchet clause, provided he's got one in his deal, will mean his contract rises at the same percentage as the salary cap. Most NRL players have that in their contracts, full disclosure, so it's not a new thing or something that Moses is the only player who has one. But certainly that'll be something that the Eels have to factor in when they move to this new TV deal and new salary cap in a couple of years' time.